The Professional Bowlers Association Summer Tour on ESPN is being brought to you by Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Pizza Hut, home of pan pizza that's winning the hearts of America. And by Bic Metal Shaver. It stretches your skin for a better shave. Now let's preview tonight's top 5. Operating from the number 5 position, it's 4-time PBA champion Dave Ferraro of Kingston, New York. His opponent in the opening match is 27-year-old Ron Williams of Fort Worth, Texas. Old Deadeye Walter Ray Williams Jr. in search of his 6th professional title will start from the middle of the stack, while talented Tony Westlake of Edmond, Oklahoma will begin tonight's action from the runner-up position. And of course, atop the leaderboard after 42 games in El Paso this week is this year's Firestone Tournament of Champions champion, Ballard Jr. of Richardson, Texas. And welcome, everyone, to spacious Bowl El Paso, located in El Paso, Texas, for the championship round finals of the $130,000 El Paso Open. Hi, everyone. I'm Denny Schreiner, and welcome to El Paso. And it's been 18 long years since the PBA staged an event here in El Paso. And, of course, the last winner back in 1971 was J.B. Blaylock. He's a senior player now, and he finished up 45th this week. And although he's not in the senior ranks as of this point in time, my partner Mike Durbin, Hall of Famer, won the 1968 El Paso Open. And do you remember anything about that championship?
Well, I definitely remember it, Denny. It's hard to believe that I won that title 21 years ago. Where do the years go?
All right, now let's take a look at Ballard Jr. at the top seed position. A month ago, no one in the bowling world would have given Ballard Jr. or anybody else any chance whatsoever winning Bowler of the Year. If he captures this title tonight, Mike, he's got 4 titles.
He not only has 4 titles, he's going to be close to $200,000 in earnings. He's already ahead of Mike Albee in top 24 finishes, 13-9, and in cashes, 16-12. If he wins this title, as you say, it's 4 titles, close to $200,000. A few weeks ago, I don't think Dell really thought he had a chance for Bowler of the Year. If he wins tonight, I believe that he feels he has a chance.
If you've been watching the top 24 over the past year or so, the name Tony Westlake keeps creeping up. He qualifies number 2 here this evening, and he's rapidly becoming one of the better clutch players on the tour.
And he's in that perfect position. He's in the number 2 position. He's bowling very well. He made our telecast just a couple weeks ago in Riverside. He just missed last week. And right now he's in that number 2 spot. A lot of people prefer that spot, Denny. You only have to win 2 games and you got a title.
And, of course, what Walter Ray Williams Jr. is thinking about is nobody beats me 14 times in a row. That's right, 14 consecutive appearances in the championship round without a victory. His last one was back in 1987. What's the problem?
Well, that's what Walter Ray is asking. And in that 14 appearances, he has 7 seconds. So all I can say is that he's going through a period that a lot of great bowlers have gone through. Marshall Holman went through a dry period for a long time there. He's got to hang in, as my dad says, muddle through, and hope that the breaks go his way and feel that he can win again.
Ron Williams, the number 4 qualifier, easily has the most unconventional arm swing of the top 5, and yet he still throws plenty of strikes.
And he threw strikes last night to make our telecast. He won his only title in Columbus, Ohio last year, and he did it by averaging 240 for about 3 games. What I like about Ron's game is his follow-through. He trusts the ball on shots that he needs, and any bowler that can do that is a threat to win.
And if you're a betting man and you'd like to place a bet on a guy who would probably throw a double in the 10th on the PBA Tour right now, it most probably would be Dave Ferraro.
And he proved his worth last night. He needed that double in the 10th to make our telecast tonight. He flushed all 3 strikes in the 10th. But he's got a question in his mind right now, Denny. He's finished second twice this year. He finished second at the PBA National, and he needed a double in the 10th to win that title and didn't get it. He's got to win 4 games tonight, and against a tough field, that's a tough task for anybody. But Dave could be up to it.
And the population here in El Paso, somewhere near 500,000. And without question, some of them, most of them, ended up here this week at Bowl El Paso. Outstanding crowds. There's a big one on hand tonight. And they're looking forward to the opening match here. And it'll be a good one between Dave Ferraro and Ron Williams. The PBA Tour on ESPN coming up next. A jam-packed house at Bowl El Paso in El Paso, Texas for the championship round finals of the $130,000 El Paso Open. Ron Williams and Dave Ferraro up here in game number 1. These fans are starved for action.
They certainly are. A very enthusiastic crowd. Let's just hope that we get some X's up there to support that enthusiasm.
All right, for Ferraro. Oh, a magnificent performance in the 10th frame last evening against Sam Macarone. Ferraro loses the game, but had enough sticks left over to make the telecast.
And he knew exactly what he needed. Got up in that 10th and threw the double, and that's why he's here tonight.
Championship round pair, 29 and 30, and Ferraro shakes him around a little bit and starts with a strike.
And Denny, all of the players said that the lanes appear a bit tighter tonight than they've been during the week, and that the oil is carrying down, so they're going to get tighter yet. Generally, that favors the line ball bowler because he doesn't have to circle and he can go straight at the pocket like Dave Ferraro.
Williams inside target a little bit, and he shakes him up. And as evidence of the 2 light hits right off the bat, yes, they are tighter than they were throughout the week.
And interesting, you know, such an unusual style here. Pushes that ball out, now steps, 4-step delivery, watch the arm swing. Bends that arm, had to develop that style as a child, but watch the follow through. See him trusted out there, and that open hand means that he got around to the side of that ball. For the double.
And Williams out of the gates very quickly as he doubles up on Ferraro. And we expected to see a few strikes thrown here this evening. Quality players on the telecast.
They bowled each other in Columbus, Ohio last year, and Williams beat him 240 to 190. So for the title.
With a double of his own, David with 4 titles, and you hit the nail right on the head in the Open. He would like to win again very soon.
Watch Ferraro, 5-step player, head steady all the way through. Now watch the slide. There is no slide. Stiff leg, which you normally wouldn't recommend. No slide, again, which you'd normally recommend. He makes it work for him.
Utilizing a re-rack on lane 29 here in frame number 3.
Dave had some wrist problems last year and year before, and he wears a support underneath that wrist device that he has on right now, more as preventative maintenance now than anything else. He says it doesn't bother him while he's bowling.
Stays firm through that shot. He likes it. He's got him dancing here at Bowl El Paso, and we've had 5 shots, 5 strikes.
Ferraro just saws this 5. Watch the ball hit the 5. And just, well, he gets in the way there, but he just rips it right into that 7. And there's his reaction. Ooh, he looks mean there.
Growling a little bit in the 3rd. Let's see if Williams can answer the call. Right back at him, he says, as these two are counter-punching here early on in game number 1.
Are they counter-punching or just slugging one another out,
They're throwing those haymakers.
Yeah, right.
Well, these two, let's see, Williams averaged 223 for the week. Ferraro at 221. Scores a little above the medium range this week. Only 1 300 game as compared to 9 last week. And there you see 2 perfect games at this point in time. The target, and he trips out the 4. Well, 7 for 7, these two gentlemen.
Creeps a little high here. Watch the 2-pin, 3rd from the left. As he goes high, the 1 hits the 2. The 2 goes to the wall and taps out both the 4 and the 7.
And Ron Williams likes the effort. He leads by 10. We're all perfect here through 7 frames. Don't go away. The strikes will continue. And here's a look at the Pro-Am winner this week. And no, that's not the car that he had before he started. That's what they gave away as the top prize this week, Mike Durbin. It's a 1989 Plymouth Colt, courtesy of Chrysler Plymouth of Las Cruces, New Mexico.
I should have entered the Pro-Am this week.
I should have come in early and bowled as well. That's right. What a great Pro-Am prize. Probably the best one of the entire year on the PBA Tour. Dave Ferraro has 3 strikes, and yet he trails in this match in the early stages.
Well, he won't trail if he gets this one. Leaves the soft 10. I was just going to say, Dan, that between our 5 finalists tonight, they've had 46 perfect games between the 5 of them.
46 300 game. pairs. Cross lane for the spare. Ferraro tried to keep pace, but couldn't do so here in the fourth.
Watch Dave. Stays right behind that ball. Very little turn. Right over about the 11th board. Now watch the 6-pin. Second from the right as the ball comes in light, and it just slides off in the 10th. Not enough power to knock out that 10.
Was left when he let it go, and he leaves the 3-6-10.
Little lapse in concentration there is the only thing I can think of here. I mean, your opponent's stringing strikes like that, you go to commercial break and come back, you don't strike, you just let down a little bit.
You can see some of the perspiration already forming on Dave Ferraro and the other players as well. It's been very warm here in El Paso this week, and certainly a little warmer under the television lights here this evening.
And I was asking the bowlers about that earlier, and they said that, you know, sometimes the thumb swells, and what that leads to is just not as consistent good releases. That, you know, they get one that hangs a little bit or slips a little bit. They don't have that consistent good release.
Well, that one came off in fine fashion, and the half-10 left in the fifth for Mr. Williams. So after 7 consecutive strikes, a couple of 10 pins.
And things are getting back to normal like they were all week long. A lot of 10 pins left this week, then.
A lot of ringing 10s, solid 10s left this week.
Cross lane at the 10 pin. No trouble at all. Here's his first shot as we get a look straight on. Watch his head and his eyes. Now watch the follow through as he comes through then. That unusual arm swing. But at the bottom of the swing, looks like anyone else. He's, come on, ball. That's what he said.
Sometimes it listens and sometimes it doesn't.
High. And is it going to fall? No, it didn't. Trouble there. 3, 6, 9, 10. Not only does he lose count, but he has a very difficult spare. In fact, if he does not make this spare, he is trailing in the match.
Shakes his head a little bit, and obviously he wasn't too pleased with that last offering.
Now he crept high, you know, for the 4-pin frame before on this lane. Lane's just hooking a little quick for him. Great spare shot. He may have to make an adjustment on that lane, Ben.
Excellent conversion of the 3, 6, 9, 10. So both players have shown they can strike and shoot some spares.
Hits the ball well out on the lane here. Right over, almost looked like the middle arrow there. Didn't know how he was going to play it. Perfect conversion, though. High. Both of them just getting the ball left. It's like there was a surge of adrenaline to start this match, and now it's kind of just drained down to the knees here.
Well, you mentioned that they're both throwing the ball a little bit left. I talked to Ron Williams and asked him why he fared so well this week, and he said, Denny, there was a little tug area for me this week to the left. In my game, if you give me a little room to the left, I normally bowl pretty well.
Tough spare again, and he didn't. He knew he'd missed it as soon as he let it go.
So the open frame for Ferraro in the 6th. He now trails by 24 and finds himself in trouble.
Big trouble. Plus he's missed the pocket the last 2 straight shots. Got to trust that ball out there. Can't fit it in. More room. Better reaction.
Completely different shot than the last couple.
It's just execution, Denny.
Well, you have to give it room. Trust is a must on the PBA Tour. And there you see what happens when you do give it a little room. He trails by 24. We'll be back with more right after this.
Summer Tour. It's an action-packed August on ESPN.
For Ballard Jr., never lower than 5th at any time.
All the way through, but a steady progression for Westlake as he just kept climbing the ladder. He wants to move up one more spot tonight.
Of course, the key round number 5, Walter Ray was leading heading into the final 8 games of match play, and Ballard just simply came out and grabbed that top seed position. Ah, yes, 2 lovely ladies there trying to make it through the opening game. The hardest thing in the world has to be to sit there and then, of course, sit next to the person you're in your heart rooting against.
Right.
All right, Ron Williams up now in the 7th.
High again, Brooklyn.
Oh! That was runaway Brooklyn.
He says it looks the same on the scoreboard. He just got this ball started left, turned it early, hit about the 13th board when he's aiming about 10, and that's the result. Get a break. Help. Thank you. Embarrassment. That's what he is right there. He's embarrassed that he got that kind of strike on national television.
Okay, let's see if he can throw this one a little further to the right. Maybe hit the 11th board.
A lot more room. Took advantage of it. That's what you got to do when you get those breaks.
Ah, yes, finally appreciative of the effort there. Now Ferraro has to step up in the 8th. He's working on a strike in the 7th. He needs a double desperately.
Must strike for him right here, dude. Has to strike. More room. Will he get the 10? Yep. Back to 24. He's got to have one more.
Well, the key shots here have been the light hits. We've really not seen a very flush strike thus far.
Yeah. Ferraro had one, and I think that's about it. Rear 300s, 5 of them. He's going to have more.
He's already nearly won $500,000 on the PBA tour.
Right in there. It's down to 14 pins. As Gloria Lassard says, that's better, hubby.
Anytime you see the pros go down to one knee, you know that they have thrown a good shot.
Right. What will Williams do now? The runaway Brooklyn on this lane last time?
Got to get it going a little right.
It's got to get in the room.
Tightens up the angle. The soft 10.
Will it?
Love tap there. 10 pin at about what, 95-degree angle there. It'll wiggle a little bit, but it won't fall.
It was a race between the pin and the machine won. Coming in from our ground view angle. See those phenolic pin decks, and here's the pin going and the machine coming. Back to live action as the machine won there. He made the 10 pin. Down to 13 pins right now.
244 if he strikes out. That's enough to win the match.
Well, double and 8's enough to win the match. Best that Dave Ferraro can get is 241. This is the lane he picked to finish on. A lot of room. And then it came roaring back. Pretty shot.
Why in the world would you throw it left to your target when you have that kind of reaction to the right?
Because we're not perfect in it. We make mistakes.
All right, all right. He's got to know that in his mind, though, now. He's saying, hey, if I throw it a little right, I know I can get the ball back.
It's true.
Now, this one right here really puts him in a position to move on to game number 2.
This is the most important shot of the week for him right now. Tie. So you can't always make your body do what your mind tells it to do.
All right.
He knew to throw it right, and he just couldn't make himself do it.
Does he feel perhaps that maybe you're going to leave a washout or something like that if he gets it a little too far right?
There's always that fear.
Sure.
You know, give it room. Not too much.
It's always easier from up here to talk about it. So he converts the spare. Really, for all intents and purposes, when you shoot 234 in the championship game or championship round, you're supposed to win.
Not always, though.
Especially against a customer like Dave Ferraro.
And see if he lives up to his reputation as the clutch bowler. One more he needs.
Boy, look at him, too. Not much show of emotion there. Pretty much just going to work.
But it's interesting, you know, the strikes on this lane have been the light scramblers, 2 of those, that blower right there. You know, the question is now, will he get it up a hair more for the soft 10?
want to break. Well, a little slower speed that time, but he trips out the 4 and about a half a dozen other pins in the process. So Ferraro needs 5 now to move on to game number 2.
And this ball, he's saying, hold, hold. 2-pin does the work. Watch him.
That's the team of Ferraro and Ferraro rooting on yet another victory. He needs 5 and he gets 8. Well, we've seen some beautiful clutch bowling here in game number 1.
He has that reputation. He lived up to it in game 1 here.
Had to double in the 10th to move on. Ron Williams will move on to Austin, Texas next week. An outstanding week for him. And this man right here is going to move on as well. Coming up next, though, average builders. The right arm should know what the left arm is doing. Join Mike Durbin when we return. High 3-game series this week of 750. The qualifying leader at 41.32. Not quite as high as last week in Tucson, but nevertheless, an average of 225 plus.
For Brian Voss, and then he struggled some when he got into the match play portion of the tournament. That
sure
happens now and then, even to great bowlers like Brian Voss.
Finished up 12th on the week. All the players, 208.69. Average to qualify, 218, and the average to cash, 210.
And the big difference there that the right-handers out-average the left-handers here by 10 pins a game.
Not a left-hander in the top 24 as well.
2 of them got the checks this week, so obviously they were on the short side of the stick this
Dennis
week.
Horan Jr., I think, was the high left-hander, wasn't he?
That's correct.
Yeah. And a host of high games. Our alternate finishing up 25th this week with a 300 game, and then a 299 for Alan Bishop.
Steve Hardy, 290. Mats Carlson in the top 24 this week. Kent Wagner, another 290.
Stevie Jaros and Jimmy Pensack with 289s as well. And I'm sure that all those players had superb form with their left arms, because that's what Mike Durbin is going to talk about next in this week's Average Builder.
For tonight's Average Builder, I'd like to talk about something that's very seldom talked about in the sport of bowling. And that is, what do I do with my opposite arm as I'm going in my approach to the foul line? In other words, as a right-handed bowler, what do I do with my left arm? Or a left-handed bowler, what do I do with my right arm? Well, if you watch the bowlers on our telecast tonight, you see a variety of different things that they do. In our upcoming match, you're going to see Walter Ray Williams Jr. Walter Ray has a unique approach. He takes his left arm and brings it all the way back here as he's letting the ball go, and I really don't know how he manages to physically do that. Ron Williams, who we just saw, does just the opposite. He takes that left arm as he's going in his approach and puts it forward like this, and as he's ready to let the ball go, he brings it back and brings his shoulder forward like this. But the bowler I'd like you to watch tonight is our tournament leader, Ballard Jr. Dell is very square as he goes to the foul line, and his left arm is out like so, and he has a square shot time after time after time. And that's what I recommend to you, to try and achieve this square feeling as you're going to the foul line. Now, the way you do that is as I push the ball away, I take that first step in a 4-step delivery, and I push it out right here. I'm ready to let the ball go and have gravity pull that swing down. I take my left arm, if I'm right-handed, and gently point it toward the opposite wall of the bowling center. I just bring it back like I'm pushing against air and point it toward that opposite wall of the bowling center. This creates a nice square shoulder angle all the way through the approach. Now, why do I recommend that? Well, the basic reason I do is to ensure a square shot at the foul line. You see, so many of us have the tendency as we're going to the foul line to lead with our opposite shoulder. If I'm right-handed, I have this tendency to lead with my left shoulder. And if I get to the foul line in this position and I try and let the ball go toward my target, it's hard to get it on my intended target line. So what do I do at this point? Well, I naturally pull the left shoulder back and snap the right shoulder forward and hope that they line up square as I'm letting the ball go. You'll see many professionals do this. But remember, they're bowling as much as 100 games a week. So making this subtle adjustment is easy for them. It's not so easy for the rest of us. I think it's far easier to point that left arm out here toward the...
And we're back at Bowl El Paso in El Paso, Texas. Walter Ray Williams Jr. finishing up his practice shots here on the championship round pair. Dave Ferraro with a 239-234 win over Ron Williams. A very exciting opening match.
Exciting opening match. Both of these players now are going to go straighter down the lane. I mean, Dave, we already saw as we take a look at the prize list, the winner here is going to get a nice $20,000 paycheck.
And you told me back in 1968 you won all of $3,000.
All of $3,000 for winning this
tournament.
tournament.
$10,500 for second. There you see third, fourth, and fifth. All right, we're all set for the start of match number 2.
Anyway, the point I was making before is these players are similar. Straight angle into the pocket. The winner of this game could go on to win the tournament.
Opening shot for Ferraro, who really seems now to be very comfortable with bowling here in the championship round.
He looked pretty comfortable in that opening match, I thought, except for that one spare.
Walter Ray Williams Jr., 5 titles thus far. It's been nearly 2 years since his last victory. That one floats a little on him and leaves the 2-5. The 4 exited stage left.
And he just didn't catch it, just no fingers in that shot, and it didn't make it up to the 1-3 pocket.
5th championship round appearance thus far this year for Walter Ray, who has already won better than $77,000.
He'll go straight at the spare with a harder ball. Doesn't want the ball to bite at his spares. Wants to go, goes perfectly straight at him. 5 steps. Pushes it out. See at the top of the swing, he's right in time. That unusual delivery. Now watch him from behind. Watch his left arm here, Dan. See the swing come out and then back, and then the left arm snaps back as he lets it go.
Better shot there on the left-hand lane as that one was flush. An unusual style, to say the least.
He makes it work.
Oh, boy, does he. Player of the year just 3 seasons ago.
High. Whoa! What's he going to do in that lane? Went trip 4 through the nose, and now Brooklyn, the last 3 shots. Now this lane is hooking about 2 boards more for Dave. It isn't for the other bowlers, but it is to him. It looked like he just stayed in that ball too long. Not a good executed shot, but got a good result. He said, well, that happened to me, you know, by Ron Williams in the first match.
In the top 5 on the PBA Tour in average here in 1989. Trying to make it 3 in a row. He likes the left-hand lane, and this time comes up with a solid 10.
And the first solid 10 that we've seen in the matches tonight. There were a lot of them left this week.
That's what makes bowling such an interesting game. You throw a Brooklyn and you strike, and you throw the best shot of the second game, and you leave a solid 10.
Right, they get even in a hurry.
So Ferraro spares up in the 3rd, and it gives Walter Ray, who trails by 9, an opportunity to double and grab the lead.
And take the lead, right. Well, they had a good match in the match play. Smooth.
Yeah, a little more roll on that shot. He got out of that shot much cleaner.
It's just amazing how smooth he can put that ball down. He wouldn't break a pane of glass if it were out there.
Breathing a sigh of relief. He now leads by a single stick. Strike here, and he puts the pressure back on Ferraro.
And his biggest asset probably is his ability to repeat shots with accuracy, time after time. Got it a hair right, and it didn't make it up.
Needed a little help on the shaker hit. Leaves the soft 7. Tony Westlake qualifying number 2. Del Ballard Jr., this year's Firestone Tournament of Champions champion. Our top seed this week. Quality field.
Certainly is. Walter Ray makes this, and we've got a dead even match.
The odds of him making that spare were pretty good, and he does. So Walter Ray Williams Jr. and Dave Ferraro are deadlocked here early on in game number 2 from Bowl El Paso in El Paso, Texas.
former PBA winner on the left, and Phil Prieto on the right there.
And there are 4 gentlemen that are involved in owning this marvelous facility. Dave Shelton and Frank Hatfield could not be with us here this evening, but they are also part owners here in Bowl El Paso. A marvelous facility.
Very pretty center.
Ferraro now in the 4th, back to work, game number 2.
And he's lost on lane 30 right now as he looks down and doesn't know what to do. Fortunate to get 9 out of that hit. When you hit the nose like that, you could wind up with 5. I'm staring at you on both sides of the lane.
One more time for the cross lane spare.
Right through the heart of the pins here, over about board 21 right there, and it cleans them all out and leaves only the 3-pin.
Second match here settling into a real grind out at this stage.
Right. 1-pin difference.
Each player with a double thus far in the early stages. Well, you can see he looks a lot more comfortable on the left-hand lane than he does on the right. He's really thrown a lot of good shots on 29.
And the right lane is just hooking early for him. The left lane seems to skid another 3 or 4 feet down the lane, and he just has all the confidence, so he makes a better shot there. Will it hold? No. Another big break. Right lane is just not holding. They've got to be extremely accurate with that straight shot on the right lane. We've got an even match if he makes this spare. Again, fortunate going through the heart of the pins like that and leaving only 6.
All right, if you know you can't go straight up and at him on the right-hand lane, don't you have to start thinking belly after a while?
I think Walter Ray can go straight up and at him here, but he just has to be extremely accurate. He can't miss his target at all left.
Or maybe throw it a little harder.
And he's capable of doing that, right, Dan?
Sure.
With Dave, I think that you're right, that he definitely has to make an adjustment by moving his feet 1 or 2 boards left and his target in maybe a board. See, what he's thinking, though, if I do that, then it won't make it up.
But if you don't do it, it goes through the nose.
Right. Trouble, trouble, trouble.
Yeah. It's the beauty of the adjustments. Left-hand lane, a little more speed. Oh my, the 9-pin nearly stood, but the 4-pin.
Walter Ray was giving it the old sluggeroo with his run-out shot here as the ball just knifes through, and something, the head pin, watch the head pin, hits the 7, and the 7, I think, hit the 9. Watch Walter Ray. He thought he had a strike. He says, okay, just a 4. That's fine.
Little tomahawk shot that time from Walter Ray. A 1-pin advantage for Ferraro. He could make it an 11-pin lead if he strikes here in the 6th.
Even more room.
Oh, pretty obvious up here what he needs to do, and if Gloria had her thoughts, she might even tell him, come on, swing a little on that right lane.
He says, I'm trying, honey, I'm trying.
That's right. The mind is willing, but the arm swing is not.
As he comes in light and just catches that 5, and the 5 goes into the 7.
Little popcorn shot there. Big shot for him here in the 7th. He can really open things up.
Too much room. He should have thrown that shot on the right lane.
Leaves the 2-5.
That keeps Walter Ray in the match. It's only a 9-pin difference if he converts the 2-5, which is no gimme. Hard and straight.
Woo! Little fadeaway jumper on the left-hand lane, but that's right. She got a very nice round of applause when she was introduced earlier this evening, so she's one politician that's looked on favorably by the constituents.
For the time being.
That's a tough game, too.
Yes, it is.
Needs this shot desperately, and oh my, what a clutch strike on lane 30 for Walter Ray. Sets up a possible double.
Going to his good lane, and a double puts him in the lead by 1 pin. Good match here.
The first one was an excellent match as Ferraro doubled in the 10th to nudge Ron Williams 239 to 234. Two 2-5. Ferraro left at the last trip. Walter Ray visibly upset with himself for that shot.
He says, what do I do? He says, it crept high time before, and I threw it a little harder this time, and it doesn't make it up. Breaks down the bucket to leave only the 2-5. He realizes he's running out of frames. Ooh, he's got it.
First things first, convert the 2-5. So he had a strike up in the 7th and couldn't take advantage of it. Now Ferraro, who leads by 9, stands up in the 8th.
Definitely moved in just a little bit, rode that oil a little bit more that time, and the ball didn't quite make it back with enough power to get out that weak 10. So we've got an 8-pin match if he makes this spare with 2 frames to go, and Ferraro has the 8 pins. Boy, no time at all, switches balls. Just takes that 10-pin for granted, doesn't he?
Well, he shot a few of them this week, so I'm sure he's comfortable with the cross-lane spares.
He's comfortable with almost all spares. This is his first ball right now. Inside the second arrow. Now getting out to maybe the 10th board. Now watch the 6-pin. See it. Try to get up to get the 10. Not enough power to do it.
Well, it wiggled it for a moment. More importantly, right now, if he strikes here, he cannot be shut out of the match.
Correct. Well, that light hit's been the most reliable one of the night.
I don't think there's any question about that. Walter Ray now, if he has any hopes whatsoever of continuing on here in the El Paso Open, has to strike out, and the best he could offer would be 227.
Well, these are both very good 9th and 10th frame bowlers, so we'll just wait and see what happens.
Well, he overturned it. He thought he had thrown a good shot and breaks a few pins down and leaves the 6-10.
Can't get discouraged, though, here, Dan, because he's still in this match. He's exactly 10 pins down. He needs to convert this 6-10 and get up and throw 3 strikes in the 10th frame.
Which would mean 215.
Which is exactly the pace that Dave Ferraro was going at. It would force Dave to strike again to win the second match.
And strike on the right-hand lane, which has been his tougher lane.
Well, he just didn't prepare himself. We'll see if he throws the strike anyway, but I just would have taken a little extra time at this point to get my thoughts together so that I wasn't down.
Oh, my. Tough break. Walter Ray with an excellent shot. Ripped the rack 5-pin left of the 7, and so now with a spare and a strike, it's 204.
Basically what that means is that Dave Ferraro will need a mark to win the match.
Well, it really was a very nice shot in the 10th, wasn't it?
It was, but again, I don't think he prepared himself enough mentally going into that frame.
Mike, do you think perhaps at this stage, after 14 consecutive appearances without winning a title and not having a lot of success, that maybe he's a little down mentally?
Oh, absolutely. I think that they can would reach anybody.
Sure. Start thinking the negative thoughts rather than the positive.
He needs to strike on this fill ball to force him to mark.
Good acceleration through the swing. Doesn't get much help and shoots. 203. No opens for accurate Walter Ray Williams Jr., but it might not be enough.
If Dave Ferraro would open and go 9 out, we would have a tie match.
Plenty of room.
Is it going to fall? Boy, he almost had the 7-10 up there for a second. If they'd have both stood, he'd have needed one that we'd have had a tie match.
Yep.
Quickly he grabs the other ball. He's thinking this one over just a little bit. Knows he needs the spare to win the match.
Steps back off. Takes a little extra time to gather himself.
And to let the crowd simmer down.
Smart play.
No trouble.
Right at it. So Ferraro advances now into game number 3 here in El Paso, and he has really disposed of a couple of tough customers in Ron Williams and Walter Ray Williams.
Well, he got rid of the Williams duo.
The Williams boys. Right up the track she goes. There's the strike that he would like to have had. But 215 to 203. Walter Ray, another disappointing appearance in the championship round, but nonetheless a successful week. He's up now with over $80,000 in earnings. And who says that nice guys have to finish last? When we come back with our feature on Dave Husted, I'm sure you'll be surprised. Richardson, Texas. He's the tournament top seed. He'll talk with our Mike Durbin.
And I'm back with our tournament leader this week, Del.
All eyes and lenses are now trained on the championship pair here in El Paso because we're down to 3 players. Oh, the high fives being given now between Ferraro and Westlake. This could be a dandy of a match.
Well, we've got 2 good matches already. You know, Ferraro again proving his mettle, striking to win the first match and getting the mark in the 10th when he needed to win the second.
Ferraro averaging 227 through 2 games here in the championship round.
Will it make it? Yeah. Ooh, Reagan, 10. Boy, that ball just roared into the wall.
Looking to jump out to that advantage and strike on the opening shot. Moves to the harder surface ball for the spare attempt.
And again, a lot of players do that. Switch balls for the spares, and not everyone recommends that because of the different feel, but Dave Ferraro has no trouble with it.
30-year-old Tony Westlake out of Edmond, Oklahoma. Richard Altman Paddock.
And he needs a win here to re-qualify for the Firestone Tournament of Champions.
Another quick player who makes quick work of the rack on lane 30.
As you say, dice-o-matic here. Holds the ball down, 5-step player. Just lets it swing down, kind of pulls it back. Now look at the timing. It's perfect there. Watch the slide. Now the follow-through, left arm out. Only fault he could put it, you know, if you were getting really picky, is he just turned the hair. For the double. Ooh. And I think that's anxious. He went, I want to get ahead of this guy right away, and jumped on that shot and just got it on the board left, and that was the result.
3-6-10.
Cross lane at the 3-6-10. Not the easiest spare in the world. Converts it.
No problem for Westlake, whose last appearance on ESPN just 3 weeks ago was not a happy evening. He shot 163 and was defeated by Curtis Odom.
And didn't switch bowling balls soon enough. He's improved. Maybe figured something out on this TV pair tonight, huh?
His games this week, 188 and 217 for that 202.5 average. Gets it out on the right-hand lane. There's the messenger delivering the message.
And his wife says, ho-hum, I've seen that before.
And I hope I see it again.
Watch the head pin. That's going to deliver the message, I think. And it is. It's that head pin coming off the sideboard. A hit we see so frequently nowadays that you never used to see when I won this tournament.
This is the sidearm chop and then a little orchestration with the outside right pitch. Ferraro asking for a little bit of everything on that last shot.
Boy, he almost got to Brooklyn again. Definitely the early turn there. He didn't stay with it. Didn't give it any room at all. It just was left at the top of the backswing almost. And he doesn't have much of a backswing.
David now 14, make that 15 wins, 10 losses career in the championship round.
Dave has an ability, though, that when he makes those errant shots, next time he gets up, it's completely forgotten.
Little high and tight inside fastball leaves the solid 4.
Well, it's kind of an inside fastball there,
Sure.
wasn't it? Yeah. Always was a tough one to hit for me.
Tony Westlake, after making some adjustments, taking a lesson from good friend Gary Dickinson after the winter tour, and watching some video, has now made 7 of the last 8 finals. Told me that he decided to hook the ball a little less, go back to what he does best, which is make quality shots, and don't worry about what the rest of the tour is doing.
See that little check in the left of the 3rd frame? That means that Dave Ferraro took a re-rack in that frame. And again, the rule, PBA rule, is he is allowed 2 re-racks per game, no more.
This time the fastball breaks a little inside, and Westlake throws up his hands and says, what do I have to do on the left-hand lane?
Well, it goes from 3-6-10 to 2-4-5. Break down the 2-4-5 for only the 2-pin, which suddenly registers like a neon sign in your mind. Lost.
As long as the 10-pin isn't company, there's no problem. So a double hit spare for Westlake. It's a 2-pin match here in the semifinal game. That man right there has already won twice. Will he make it 3 in a row? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Next week, the championship round finals on Wednesday evening of the $130,000 Columbia 300 Open from Highland Lanes in Austin, Texas, live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, only on ESPN.
Austin, a lovely town, home of the University of Texas.
That's right, the capital of the Lone Star State. We're going to Texas City a little bit later on this summer.
We can't get out of this state,
no,
can we?
We can't. Dave Ferraro now in the 4th, leading by 2. Has he become the crowd favorite?
Sometimes happens that way. I think Ballard will be the crowd favorite. I mean, they've been cheering for him all week. Ferraro trying for his first double. Hit his tough lane twice in a row now.
We talked about that lane being the tough lane, but through 2 games, he's got 7 strikes on the right lane, 7 strikes on the left lane.
Keeps Tony Westlake in the match. That's swishing 7 right there. You're going to watch this. The ball is just going to clip the 5 and not have enough power or steam to get over and get that 7. Oh, pin's bouncing all around it. Somehow missed it.
Cross body block between the 5-pin and the head pin. The 7-pin stood alone. Ferraro doesn't take advantage of the strike in the 4th. And Westlake still trailing by 2. Could help the matter with a double hit.
Well, he's got to get the first one first.
That's right.
Good average on this pair during the qualifying and match play.
See, I was thinking positive all along that he would strike there.
There's his wife, Mary.
He's a newlywed. They were married, what, in June?
That's what I would say a newlywed, yes.
Yep. Said Mary has helped his mental game tremendously. So he was really down after the winter tour. Missed the last 4 or 5 checks in a row. And, you know, just mentally was kind of burnt out, took a little time off, and he's really bounced back beautifully here in the spring and the summer.
For the lead. Oh, knocked that weak 10 out of there.
And that is the hit on the pro tour that will advance you quicker than any.
Gets you excited. Watch the 6-pin, second from the right. Goes to the sideboard and gets that 10, even though the ball deflected. Oh, he didn't think it was going to carry. He says, what do you know? Two ringing 10s, a swishing 7, and 6 frames. So he says, boy, oh boy, what do I do? Here's our ground shot. The ball goes out to about the 8th or 9th board. Comes roaring back. Watch the 6-pin. Second from the right. It sails around that 10. Live action. Dave converted the 10-pin. We should comment that we have very fast bowlers tonight. There are no real aimers on this show.
It just goes to show you that you don't have to spend all that time in order to get the job done.
You're talking about me again, huh,
No,
Denny? Oh, okay.
no. But I think that in some cases, slow play has to be looked at. Same on the PGA Tour, same thing.
Another 10 pin.
Now feeling down in the dumps is Dave Ferraro, who kind of looks up mystically and says, hey, I hit the pocket 3 shots in a row, got no strikes.
That's the third 10 pin of the match. Not much you can do when the pins don't cooperate.
Well, you don't make an adjustment for the half 10, do you?
You can move a half a board right, but he's not going to do that. He's just going to try and make a quality shot next time and hope it carries.
And hope that he has a chance, that the man in red doesn't continue to strike here at Bowl El Paso in El Paso, Texas. Hi, laddie, and they'll be playing that British Open this week. Troon, Scotland, Thursday and Friday on ESPN, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. on the West Coast. A couple of days of coverage. The 118th British Open Championship. Defending champion is Seve Ballesteros.
I don't know about you, but I'm rooting for an American to win it. I hope Curtis Strange comes out and shoots his first round like he did his last 3 last year.
Europeans have won the last 4.
Trying for one more. Oh! And he says, well, Dave, I can leave a solid 10 too.
Oh, that's heartbreak heaven there when you throw it that flush for the turkey to really grab the guy by the throat and the solid 10 stands.
Keeps it, though, a tight match here. Within a mark. Woo! Little thin there. Little thin there. Again, watch the 6 pin as the ball seems to go flush into the 1-3 pocket. Is flush. How could you throw it any better? And 6 goes not even close to the 10. Did you see that? It wasn't really even close.
You know, sometimes when you watch that 6 pin, it'll wrap around the very bottom of the 10. Other times it's around the middle, and sometimes it's in the top. Why does it fly high and low and in between? Do you know?
Well, it's just on one round object hitting another round object. It's going to fly one way and then another. And now he leaves a solid 8 behind that. His ball is hitting so hard, it's just really hitting too hard right now.
2 unbelievably bad breaks in a row for Tony Westlake.
Now watch this. See, what I think happens on that is that the head pin turns sideways, hits the 2 pin, and the head pin hits the 5 before the ball gets there. The butt of that head pin nicks the 5 pin before the ball gets there, and the ball goes through an empty space and leaves the solid 8.
Well, what this all means is that it's an 8-pin match right now as Ferraro steps up in the 8th.
He's there. And he leaves another solid 10. The 4th of the match. He's only had 2 strikes. He's had every ball in the pocket.
Well, most of the players throughout the week said it's fairly easy to get to the pocket, but knocking down the corner pins is the key, as it is in most weeks, but perhaps more so here this week.
Well, this is what the players were faced with all week long. You hit those games where everything carried and everything went well, and then you hit games like this where you just threw ball after ball after ball in the pocket and left a corner pin, left something, a 7 or a 10 or an 8.
Well, 217. There you see graphically what Ferraro could post if he would strike out.
9 pins the difference. Anybody's ball game with 2 frames to go. Oh my goodness. Wowee. He's got 4 in a row, but they're all 10 pins.
A perfect 10.
I mean, that's not a bad poker hand, but in bowling, it's no good at all.
That's right. You leave Bo Derek one time after another and after another, you're not going to get very far. Well, he's 4 for 4 in 10-pin conversions as well.
What can I do?
Tony says, you know, I've been there.
How can it stand?
Leading by 10. Trying to advance high into the pocket. Well, forget the 10. Forget the 8. Now we've got the 4.
What we've got, though, is a 9-pin match, which means that if Tony Westlake doesn't, assuming he converts this 4-pin, step up and double in the 10th frame, Ferraro is still going to have a chance to win this match. A tie is still a possibility.
All right. Safe conversion of the 4. He'll step up now in the 10th, and if he strikes out, we'll shoot 215, and that'll be enough to win.
2 strikes in anything, and 2 pins would be enough to win.
All right. That'll extra time right now for Tony Westlake.
Well, he's waiting for the machine to recycle on lane 30. It's the sweep is down and the pins have not come down, and I would wait myself.
Sure, because you're liable to be halfway into your approach and it'll come down.
Well, plus it gives you something else to think about, Dan. I mean, all you want to be thinking in this situation is executing your shot and getting the strike, and he had to push the reset button on his lane to get it going. Tony had to do that. They couldn't do it in the back.
All right.
Will it carry? Yes.
Well, the last time he left the solid 8. This time, thankfully enough,
Well, it's been great exhibition by both bowlers of pocket shooting and the frustration the PBA players face and the wives face also as she looks on knowing the situation.
Mary is really having a tough time with this match.
Well, one more strike and he's bowling for his second title. Nothing Ferraro can do. Great shot. I'll tell you what, right here with these two players, I think you have two of the best clutch bowlers on the PBA Tour right now, and you're seeing why. Watch this shot. The follow through, whistles through. Watch the 6-pin, knowing the ball is alive. And he knew it as he ran it. Needs 2 pins. That's enough right there. Gets 8. He's a winner.
Tony Westlake with a shake of the head and then a shake of the hand of Dave Ferraro. We'll move on to the championship game. For Ferraro, an excellent tournament, a fine championship round appearance. He drilled the pocket, couldn't carry the 10.
And it's interesting. At least I find it interesting. These two played golf with one another this morning. I wonder who won there.
I wonder who won the $2 Nassau. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, you're right. I think that's one of the things that makes the PBA Tour what it is, though, is the camaraderie and the players enjoying the friendships. And then, of course, when it's time to shoe up, well, he's the enemy. I'll go out and get him. And for Ferraro, of course, the 10-pin falls now. It always does when it doesn't mean anything. And Gloria knows exactly. She said, oh, that son of a gun 10-pin.
Oh, boy. What did he leave? 5 10-pins in that game.
4 in a row.
4 in a row. Actually hit the pocket better that game than he did the previous 2 games and gets the worst score.
That's what makes the sport of bowling what it is. So Ferraro finishes on a high note. But the symphony is over for Dave Ferraro, who ends up in 3rd place this week. Fans really enjoying the action, and they should. And, of course, the top seed, Ballard Jr., making his way over to face that man, Tony Westlake. But before we get to the title match, bowling news coming up next here in El Paso.
Great, you're still open.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Bowling News, brought to you by Pizza Hut, home of pan pizza that's winning the hearts of America. And welcome back to Bowl El Paso and week number 6 of the PBA Summer Tour, a week that was not really too kind for the tour's leading money winner, Mike Albee. Albee, for the 3rd consecutive week, the PBA's leading money winner, was unable to pick up a paycheck. Meanwhile, our tournament leader, Ballard Jr., could end up just shy of the $200,000 mark if he comes away a winner here this evening. Pete Weber, who's off and bowling in Japan, remains number 3, while Amleto Monticelli and Jess Stayrook currently round out the top 5. And courtesy of his 12th place finish this week, Brian Voss is holding down the 6th position, while Randy Peterson, also a finalist this week at Bowl El Paso, is now number 7. Walter Ray Williams Jr. will obviously move up the ladder based on his performance this evening, as will Dave Ferraro. Meanwhile, steady Dave Husted is now over the $70,000 mark for the season. And after all the high scores recorded in Tucson last week, Pete Weber has now jumped all the way to a 218-plus average, nearly 4 pins per game higher than his nearest pursuer. Amleto Monticelli, Jess Stayrook, and Dave Ferraro are all currently in the neighborhood. And, of course, if you remember all those high scores last week in Tucson at Golden Pin Lanes, the pros ended up stroking 9 300 games. And, of course, Amleto Monticelli set a new single-season record with 7. We thought you might like to find out who leads the career 300 list among the best bowlers on the PBA Tour. 1980 Bowler of the Year Wayne Webb is numero uno in the perfecto department with 30 thus far. Pete Weber and Guppy Troop have all tossed 27 each in their careers, while Marshall Holman, Steve Cook, and Steve Wunderlich make up the rest of the upper echelon. PBA Hall of Famer Gary Dickinson has now recorded 23 perfectos in his outstanding career, while Hall of Famers Mark Roth, Jim Stefanich, and the PBA's all-time title holder Earl Anthony currently fill out the top 10. There's a brand new organization in the sport of bowling, and it's called the United States 10-Pin Bowling Federation. The USTBF will be operating exclusively for the advancement of national and international amateur bowling competition. Joyce Deach of Las Vegas was elected president to oversee the new organization, which is now recognized by the United States Olympic Committee and the FIQ as the national governing body for the sport in the United States. Meanwhile, Jerry Koenig has also been named the executive director of the USTBF, and he will be busy preparing for the upcoming Pan American Games as well as the U.S. Olympic Festival. It never ceases to amaze me how many people in the United States bowl each year. As a matter of fact, in 1988, 1 out of every 4 Americans ended up finding his way or her way to a bowling center, as nearly 50 million people participated in the sport of bowling this past year. As this graphic from Tuesday's USA Today so vividly illustrates, each area of the country is well represented. The North Central region leads the way with more than 15 million participants, while surprisingly enough, the South is running a very close second. Now, here on the Bowling News, you've heard us talk about bowling for trophies, bowling for titles, even bowling for dollars. But bowling for kids? That's right. There's a couple that lives in Finland that at this point in time is having their problems, not necessarily with their bowling game, but with their child. It appears that both parents are so obsessed with the sport of bowling, neither one wants to stay home with their 7-year-old son, Dobby. They're in the process now of getting a divorce, and a local judge in Finland is so upset with their obsession with the sport that he has decided that they will bowl a 3-game match, winner-take-all match, for the custody rights of that 7-year-old child. The match is scheduled for sometime later on in August, and of course, we here at the Bowling News will keep you updated. That's right, I don't write them, I just read them. And that's a look at Bowling News this week. So Sam Macarone in yet a heartbreaker as well. Just missed the telecast. He finished up 6th this week.
He bowled well, and he was the victim of that double in the 10th by Dave Ferraro. We see some of the other finishers there. A new name there, Corey Groth, finishing 8th.
Randy Peterson making a heck of a run at the telecast before finishing up 10th. And, of course, Brian Voss ended up in the number 12 slot.
And the great Marshall Holman there. Brian Goebel we saw a few weeks ago on our telecast.
Yep, and then from 16 through 24, Mats Carlson back in the finals.
And Amleto winning last week, not taking a risk, coming right back in the top 24 this week.
Ron Palumbi has made a mess of top 24 finals this year. Still can't get to the telecast, however.
He's made 7 in a row. Bob Benoit there all the time, and Steve Wunderlich had a little trouble in the match play.
We know there are some marvelous stories that have been developed over the years as far as the PBA is concerned and television, and hopefully we're going to have a little video to show you here of the very first PBA event on television. It took place back in 1961. It was on ABC's Wide World of Sports, and if memory serves me correctly, Jim McKay was at the microphone, and our proprietor here, Roy Lown, was the winner of the first professional event.
How old were you in 1961, Dan? I was 20 years old right here when this was happening. The crowd reacting as they see Roy Lown. Back then, PBA members all used to have their names on the shirt. As we see the shot there, Roy Lown won that event.
That's right, and $15,000, and he is the man that's responsible, one of the men responsible for bringing the PBA Tour back here to El Paso, and he received a nice round of applause there. And there's Roy, a few years older and obviously a few years wiser.
And a couple of pounds heavier.
Oh, they love him here in El Paso. We're getting ready now for the championship round game between Ballard Jr. and Tony Westlake. Del Ballard right now taking some practice shots, and it'll be an interesting match. Tony Westlake, a gutsy performer who now has a win under his belt in the semifinal game.
Well, we said at the top of the show, Dan, that he was in that ideal position, that number 2 position. He's got that win under his belt. Del Ballard, when we talked to him in the interview, did not seem that confident. He told me confidentially that the pair was not quite the same. You know, it was tighter. He was having trouble getting the ball back. Yet if he threw it hard enough for the ball to hold, it wouldn't hit. We're going to have to wait and see what kind of adjustment he makes during the championship game.
The most amazing thing about Del Ballard Jr. is already at the age of 25, he has captured the Firestone Tournament of Champions. He has already won the BPAA U.S. Open and the ABC Masters. The only major that he's yet to record at this point is the PBA National Championship.
And he's got a lot of years left to win that one. I'm sure that he will, down the road, win that one too.
And a player, Mike, who seems to rise to the occasion in championship games and do his best in that situation is there you see graphically. Winning the big ones is right. Del Ballard's been right there. And, of course, the Brunswick Memorial World Open. How could we forget that one as well?
And he beat Walter Ray Williams Jr. to win that title. He needed to strike in the 10th frame to win it. So he's proven that he gets in that situation. If he needs that pressure strike, he can perform.
All right, now, at this point strategically, will he start the match? Will he finish the match? What do you think he'll try?
What I think he'll do is I think he'll have Tony start the match and he'll finish on that left lane to get his score posted first.
Well, the interesting note about both of these players that they do bowl the PBA Southwest Regional program. Both players have fared very well here at Bowl El Paso. Tony Westlake has finished twice in this building and Del Ballard Jr. third. But tonight, they'll bowl for the title of the $130,000 El Paso. And then there were two. The top seed, Del Ballard Jr., and his opponent, a wily one indeed, Tony Westlake of Edmond, Oklahoma.
Well, my predictions, as usual, are wrong. Ballard has chosen to start the match. I keep my record intact.
Oh, yeah, they're just throwing you a curveball. Let's see if Ballard curves the opening shot here. Doesn't waste much time. Looked like he cut it off a little short to me.
Well, he's chosen his most hooking ball. This blue ball he's using hooks more than the ball that he used for most of the tournament because, again, the lanes are tighter tonight, and he's not the most confident bowler out there right now. Doesn't mean he won't find something during the course of this game. Notice how he straightened that shot out at the spare to it harder and straighter.
Change the wrist position a little bit and don't hit the ball as much.
Right. And when Denny says don't hit it, he means don't lift it with those fingers. He lifted that one. Didn't quite make it.
And we'll settle for the 2-pin.
And so we got a little two left jabs here coming out, a little faint and not quite their best shot there. This game is so much, well, it's important to both players. It's so important to Tony to requalify for the Firestone Tournament of Champions. It's important to Del to have a chance for Bowler of the Year this year, even though he doesn't think he has any chance. I think he's already conceded to Albee, but I think some of the other players think he thinks he has a chance if he would win a couple more tournaments.
And we want to wish a speedy recovery to one of our technicians, Gary Lingenfeller, who has suffered a heart attack and feeling much better at this stage, and one of the guys that's worked on our ESPN Summer Bowling the last 3 years. So relax, little Gary, and check out the action this evening as Westlake right back into the pocket on lane 29.
And that was the lane that he chose to finish on in the previous match, and Ballard has allowed him to finish on that lane in the championship match. Rips him apart.
Now, he needed that shot mentally and for a confidence factor. You can see him that time.
Now, see how he has that? Watch the left toe come up. That's his trigger to get himself started. See how square he is going to the line? Left arm out there pointing toward the opposite wall. Comes right straight through it and trusts it. Look at how close he is to that foul line. Starts at the back and almost winds up at the foul line. For the double. Perfect.
He was asking for it to roll up into the pocket, and that time the ball obeyed.
Watch this, just turn left. He sent it wider, lifted it better, and perfect. Yes. Tony for the double. Oh, doesn't trip that 4.
Tried to spank the 4 out, little high on the hit. I think Mary's just tickled to get to the title match.
You can't be satisfied with that.
I'm sure he's not.
I'm sure he's not. But you can't let Ballard get out ahead of you. In the championship match or in the position round last night, Westlake bowled Ballard, and Ballard started off with the first 9 straight strikes.
Yeah, only 9 pins separated these two players after 41 games.
So Ballard just has the ability that when he gets ahead like that, he smells that finish line and he's just sprinting.
He took off at the Firestone Tournament of Champions on Walter Ray. Shot 254.
Westlake trying to shore up, and he does with a slasher on the left-hand lane. So he's 2 for 2 on lane 29, but he trails by 10 here in the championship game. A double by Ballard in the second and the third. We've got an excellent championship game. The remainder to be seen on ESPN right after the... Coming up next on ESPN Sports Center, the main topics of conversation, the NFL owners' meetings, and obviously that new spring league, the International League, and all the scores around the Major League Baseball circuit. This evening, Larry Burnett and Dan Patrick standing by, and that'll happen right at the conclusion of the $130,000 El Paso Open.
Boy, I'd like to see that again and see what pin that was, if that was the head pin, too. That was hard to tell whether that was the head pin.
I'll bet it was. Head pin was a dancing on lane 30.
Here we go. We got our RoboCam. Watch the head pin. Goes to the sideboard. And it was definitely the head pin. Almost always is. The message was just a bit cut off.
Short-circuited.
Snipped it just short there, Dennis.
That would have been 3 in a row, too.
Right. Tony Westlake says, okay, that's fine.
Geez, that's a tough break, right?
Yeah,
that's what he's thinking. Hey, Tony had a couple of tough ones in game 3. Solid 8, solid 7. Oh, boy, when this guy gets that ball rolling, he can really turn that label over.
Hard to believe I'm old enough to be his father.
You know what? He reminds me, you look at his game, of Marshall Holman. Stays in that low position every step of the way.
Yeah.
Big, long slide.
Holds it down to begin with.
Sure.
This is take the lead. Oh, boy, solid 4, solid 10. He says, hey, Pins, I'm bowling for the title here. Don't do this to me.
Do they know it's a championship game?
Yeah, they always seem to know, Dan.
Yeah. Del Ballard toweling off during that last break. It's a tad warm on the championship pair.
Boy, the solid hit has just not been rewarded tonight. Dave Ferraro just leaving 10 pin after 10 pin in the semifinal match there. And now Tony Westlake leaving the solid 10 in the 5th frame here of the championship match. 9 pins separating these two bowlers. Looks good. Is good.
Boy, that 4-pin, or the 2-pin, something ricocheted off the deck. But you're right. I don't know. I think I'd be lining up for the light hits myself. They seem to be better carry. Haven't seen a 7-10 tonight, so no danger of that.
You never know.
Looks for the double and a 19-pin lead, and he caves them in, and the 2-pin topple.
And it's the old rub of the green, the breaks here. As we're going to watch this, he barely hits the head pin. The head pin has to hit the 2-pin to strike, and it doesn't. Goes forward, and the 4-pin falls forward into the 2. You're going to get a look at it here. He's got a 5 there now, and they all fall down to increase his lead to 19 pins, going to his best lane to make it up to 29. Pins giveth and the pins taketh away. What were you saying? There's been no 7-10s, no danger of that?
Well, Ferraro came close to one, but he's the only player that was even in the neighborhood. And, hell, that pin, that shot, though, the ball came in way behind the head pin.
I know, but you don't expect both of those pins to be standing, even on that hit, as he goes hard and straight at the 7-pin, hoping something bounces around. He doesn't. Tony Westlake now with a strike can take a 5-pin lead. If he strikes on that shot, he's 29 ahead. He leaves the 7-10, and it's 5 pins. And can go to be trailing one more frame. How quickly it could change. Or the double. And he got it this time.
Oh, he labeled that shot.
Well, he labeled the one before. Boy, how fast it turns around. I mean, Ballard had this match well in hand, gets that great break, and then suddenly the 7-10.
Got loose and swung it a hair too far to the right.
He'll be back.
For three. For three. And a 15-pin lead.
And he's talking to him right now, Mike Durbin. So Westlake, taking advantage of the 7-10 open in the 7th, comes up with a turkey.
And the light hit's been rewarded all night long. Comes in that light scrambler. Ballard quickly up here in the 8th frame. Tricks the 4. Biggest shot of the week coming up, Dennis.
Going to take a little more time, I think, with his shot. He's obviously been in pressure situations before.
15 pins behind. If he strikes here, he sets up a potential 235 game. Cuts the lead to 5 pins. Will it carry? Yes! Boy, the 10 pin was up there for a half a second.
So he knows he made a mistake in the 7th, but he doesn't let it bother him. He bounces back with a double.
Watch the 10 pin. Watch the 10. 6 clips the top of it as it went around and it fell. If Tony doesn't strike on this ball, he could be shut out. Moves. But he does strike.
And right now he's rolling at a 250 clip.
Basically, though, what he needs is the first strike in the 10th frame, 6 pins and a spare, and he's going to have a win. His second win. He's hit this lane every time this game. No extra time. How can you throw it any better than that under pressure? I don't know if it's humanly possible. He hasn't won yet, but for all intents and purposes, he needs 6 pins and a spare. He needs to avoid some kind of disaster. Hit the pocket, and that's all he wants to do.
And he has just flushed the pocket over the last 5 shots as he's working on a 5-bagger, and this one is going to lock it all up.
That does it. That does it. Mary says thank you.
For Tony Westlake, PBA title number 2, readmission into the Firestone Tournament of Champions, and a $20,000 payday. And I guess you'd have to say that the 30-year-old from Edmond, Oklahoma, earned the check this evening with a marvelous 249.
Well, that's what winning's all about.
Nice hug and a kiss from wife Mary. Del Ballard will finish out. And for Tony Westlake, it's been a long time back, but he's back in the winner's circle again.
You know, that shows me a little class on Del's part. He leaves that solid 10 in the 10th frame, but makes the spare rather than just throwing that pin away. Finishes out the game with 214 if he strikes. I don't know. It just shows me a little character on his part.
Well, he's seen both sides of the spectrum. He's defeated some top seeds. He's won from that position. Now he has lost from the number 1 position. He bowled a great game. Got a tough break in the 7th when he left the 7-10. So it's a $10,000 500 week for Del Ballard, who now is over $180,000. And they're on their feet right now applauding both players.
This is the shot that did it. Snaps through that follow-through like he always did.
All right.